After taking the script handed over by the agent, Liu Yan read it seriously. This time it is a historical drama. Whether it is the main creator or the main actor, it can be called a huge lineup, and even the costumes and props are quite elegant. It is said that professionals are specially invited to be consultants. It can be seen that the investors have also made great efforts. Moreover, historical dramas are now in vogue, and many people are filming and watching them. Without any estimation, it can be imagined that it will definitely be another hit drama after the filming. Then the main creator and the main actor and the investors gained both fame and fortune, and everyone was very happy. But all this has little to do with Liu Yan. The role he received was male an ignorant playboy. Because he covets the beauty of the heroine, he is destined to be a cannon fodder on the hero's growth path, and the end is naturally miserable and heartwarming. Such a role does not even have much room to play. Even if Liu Yan has a good appearance and acting skills, it cannot save him from being destined to be cast aside by the audience. After all, although the tastes of today's audience have changed, there are also a large part of the audience who have a soft spot for the villain, but it must also be a handsome, cool, and arrogant boss with equal attention to beauty and wisdom, personality and strength, not this kind of boss. There is no sense of existence and even some wretched little people. Liu Yan could almost predict that after the episode aired, his role would either be submerged in the multitude of roles, or would be pulled out by fans of the hero and heroine to constantly whip the corpse to prove the true love and ups and downs of the hero and heroine. At most, there are only a few of their own fans who are obsessed with their face for a while and then complain about why they want to take such a bad role, plus a sentence of tiredness and dislike. Liu Yan sighed silently in his heart. In recent years, almost all of the roles he has received are like this. They are not brilliant and have no special features. Most of the time, they are still annoying and disgusting. Except for a few true fans, few people will pay attention and care. But if he doesn't pick up, not only will he not have a job, but he will also receive constant cynicism from the broker. Liu Yan's manager is called Fang Meng. In addition to Liu Yan, there are 3 or 4 artists under his management. Like Liu Yan, they are not famous in the 3rd or 4th line. Fang Meng always complained that he was underappreciated, the company didn't pay attention to his talent at all, and all that was thrown to him were unpopular and worthless artists. Although Fang Meng was not too harsh on them, he was not too concerned about his work. He spent more of his time cursing the company executives and popular artists. It is conceivable that Liu Yan's situation today is inseparable from such an irresponsible broker. However, with his status and value today, it is almost impossible to change an agent. When the tide was really low, Liu Yan also thought a little to himself that he might just leave the entertainment industry. He can't say how young he is now, but he is not too old. However, it was not reconciled after all. Liu Yan likes acting. So he did not take the college entrance examination and went directly to the Academy of Performing Arts. He is talented and hardworking. During his time at school, he could be regarded as a man of influence. He was favored by his teachers, admired by his classmates, and admired by his fans. Liu Yan was a low-key and humble person, but he was not proud in his heart. However, when he really stepped into this bizarre world, the situation was completely different from when he was in school. Since an important audition died due to an accident, it seems that his life's luck has gone with it, and the ill-fated life is simply the best portrayal of his journey. Liu Yan's appearance is very good. He is the kind of handsome and threatening that people often say, with sword eyebrows and star eyes, thin lips, and a straight nose. He has a good figure, wide shoulders, narrow waist, and 2 long legs. He is a natural clothes hanger. During his school days, he also made a cameo appearance as a plane model several times. After his debut, he has also become a capital for those few fans to show off. Liu Yan's acting is also good. Although because of his academic background, it was inevitable to have some academic marks at the beginning, and then after a few years of tempering, coupled with his own efforts, every time he studied and figured out, not only his own, but also other people's roles, his acting skills were natural, more sophisticated. Ironically, even with his efforts, he has yet to receive a role that would allow him to give full play to his strength. People say that gold always shines, but when he came to him, only fish eyes were left. All he needs is a chance. From the beginning, Liu Yan was so convinced. After so many years, it is not that he has not encountered opportunities, but every time he passes by for one reason or another, it is embarrassing. If at the beginning, Liu Yan was arrogant and uneven, but now his blood and edges have long been smoothed out by reality. His edge has not even been exposed, and he has been forced to hide. The situation is stronger than people, and he has to bow his head. But what about after bowing? Liu Yan secretly smiled bitterly, and the smile when he raised his head has become humble and grateful. That's it, brother Fang. Fang Meng nodded, showing a smile I knew, patted Liu Yan on the shoulder, and said slightly sarcastically, Xiao Liu is still sensible, unlike those few, who picks and chooses and doesn't even look at them. My own identity. I don't have any skills, and I have a good temper, so it's no wonder that I can't stand out. Liu Yan smiled and did not respond. Talking about people's strengths and weaknesses behind their backs, Liu Yan would not do such a thing. It should be noted that there are ears on the wall, and people do not know when they have offended them. Even if the person who said it is a small person now, who knows when it will become a big person or climb a big person. Liu Yan had also heard that Fang Meng was unintentionally offended because of his bad mouth and was wearing small shoes, so that he did not get the attention of the company. Of course, he also wouldn't remind Fang Meng of such a thing. Seeing that Liu Yan didn't talk, Fang Meng felt bored, and put away his smile and explained, then you are ready, and you will join the crew the day after tomorrow. Although it is not an important role, don't give people the impression of playing a big name. Liu Yan nodded, he naturally understood this. Fang Meng was about to open the door and leave when he turned around again, with a meaningful smile, little Liu, your luck is still good. If it wasn't for a good friend of a big star, even such a role would not be worth it. It may not fall into your hands. You have to know how many people want to be in Director Wang's play. Liu Yan was startled, Su Yongzhou. Fang Meng seemed to be smiling but not smiling. Apart from him, do you have any other big star friends? Liu Yan was silent for a while. Fang Meng had already left. Thinking of Su Yongzhou, Liu Yan's eyes were slightly confused, and an inexplicable emotion flashed in his heart. Su Yongzhou was Liu Yan's college classmate and roommate. When Liu Yan was in college, his limelight was very strong, and there was no two for a while. If he had to find someone who could compare with him, it would only be Su Yongzhou, and he could even be called a bright moment. However, after leaving the campus, the situation of the two is very different. Su Yongzhou is now in full swing, a hot star, and he was named the best actor at last year's Golden Watch Awards. Everyone said that he deserved it. Thinking of the time when he was in school, although the other party was outstanding, he was still overwhelmed by him everywhere, like a dream. Liu Yan felt a tinge of bitterness in his heart. But having said that, in this world where the walls are pushed down by everyone, there are still people who can pull him everywhere, and Liu Yan still feels warm. Over the years, every time he was in trouble and had no work to do, almost always Su Yongzhou stepped in to help introduce the crew and characters. Although his self-esteem was somewhat subtle and frustrated, Liu Yan was not someone who didn't know what to do. I am also very fortunate to have such a good friend and brother. Thinking of this, Liu Yan let out a slight sigh of relief, took care of his complicated emotions, took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. The pleasant music rang for 2 sentences, and he was picked up. The familiar and hearty voice came, hey! Liu Yan couldn't help but smiled, Yongzhou, it's me, Liu Yan. The other party seemed to just know who it was, and smiled, it's you, Liu Yan, how is it, have you seen the new script? I'm really sorry that the character is not very good. Originally I wanted to help you win the second male lead, but the company recently happened to be there are newcomers to support, you know me too. Liu Yan interrupted in a low voice, don't say that, I understand, I'm already very grateful. There was another smile, you and my brother, do you need to say thank you? Liu Yan also smiled, his mood seemed to relax with the word brother, and his tone also brought a bit of ridicule, that big star, when you have time to admire your face, I will invite you to a meal. Haha, I'm welcome. But I have something to do in the past 2 days. I'll talk about it when I meet with the crew in 3 days. After a few more casual chats, Liu Yan hung up the phone. The male protagonist of this historical drama is Su Yongzhou, so after 3 days, he will be able to see each other again. The next day Liu Yan went to audition for another movie. The director is the famous director Qi Bai in China. His films are very flavorful. Although he has not won an international award, he has won a lot of domestic awards. The script is also very good. The screenwriter is Yan Zhan, a well-known gold medal screenwriter in the industry. The films these two have collaborated on are basically box office guarantees. Of course, what makes Liu Yan the most cautious is that the role he was auditioned for this time, although it is a supporting role, is a very important and dramatic role, with a lot of inner drama. If the actor plays well, he will be very good. You are welcome. It's not impossible to hit the best supporting role, of course, if it doesn't play well, it may be vulgar. Naturally, Liu Yan is still very confident in his acting skills. Getting this chance to audition is accidental and inevitable. The executive assistant director of this film, Liu Yan, has worked with him before, and he has been busy with the other party inadvertently, so he has a good impression of Liu Yan. When I saw this role this time, I immediately thought of him and mentioned it to director Qi. After a while, director Qi asked him to come directly to audition. When receiving the call, Liu Yan was a little excited. He has always believed that he is not lacking in strength, the only difference is an opportunity. If he can take over this role this time, Liu Yan is confident that he can play well. Liu Yan didn't tell Fang Meng about this. For some reason, he subconsciously felt that Fang Meng was unreliable and that he was hiding something important from him. He didn't count on Fang Meng, so when Fang Meng asked him to take on a bad role again yesterday, he was neither angry nor resisting. I didn't have high expectations, so I won't be disappointed. The audition went well. Liu Yan completed the scene designated by the director very well, and then asked him to go back and wait for the notice. When he walked out of the studio, Liu Yan smiled slightly, and his whole body felt a sense of relaxation. He believed that the role was already a good deal. During the audition just now, although director Qi had not spoken, Liu Yan did not ignore the admiration and recognition in his eyes. I'm in a good mood. Liu Yan didn't want to go back so quickly for a while. He will join the cast of the historical drama tomorrow. Although he is a small character, the timeline is a bit long. The little character has no privileges, so he can only follow the crew all the time. Can't be this leisurely for a while. Liu Yan walked all the way, and when he passed the central square, he accidentally caught a glimpse of two familiar figures sitting in the corner of a remote cafe. One is his manager Fang Meng, and the other is wearing sunglasses and a hat as a disguise, but the figure behind Liu Yan will not admit his mistake, it is his good friend and good brother Su Yongzhou. Liu Yan frowned, how could these two sit together? A not so comfortable intuition caused him to sneak in, picking a blind spot where they could hear their whispered conversation and sit down. The truth is always so ugly. How is it, has Liu Yan taken over that role? Although it was deliberately suppressed, Liu Yan could easily hear that it was Su Yongzhou's voice. That's needless to say. If he doesn't answer, he'll have to drink the northwest wind. Liu Yan could even imagine Fang Meng's slightly raised eyebrows with a slightly smug and sarcastic expression when he said this. That's not all due to your manager. Liu Yan rarely heard Su Yongzhou speak in such a mocking tone. His voice was always so bright and generous, full of sunshine and integrity. Liu Yan's heartbeat quickened little by little, and something was about to come out. Speak as if you are innocent. This is not to follow your instructions, Su Daxing, otherwise I would suppress those good characters and not accept the announcements, and do my best to help take up these dispensable characters. Who I will put my money aside without earning it, and deliberately cut my own way of making money. Don't be so wronged, what you get from me is far more than what you might get from Liu Yan. Haha, as expected of an actor, you are a good friend and brother in front of you, but you are doing such things behind your back. To each other. You have no position to speak to me. Speaking of which, I'm really curious, where did Liu Yan offend you? You want to deal with him like this? Liu Yan's heart skipped a beat, and he also wanted to know. It's a pity that Su Yongzhou didn't answer directly, it's not good for you to know too much. Just take your money and do your thing. Fang Meng didn't bother, he smiled, aren't you afraid that I will tell Liu Yan about these things? Su Yongzhou sneered, do you think he believes in you or me? What's more, you would do something that harms yourself and others. Besides, I'm not afraid that he will know. What can he do if he knows? It's not good for him except to tear his face. You're right. I will do things that harm others and benefit myself, but I can't do things that harm myself and others. Then it's the same account, you can transfer the money directly. Fang Meng said simply. Don't worry, when did I rely on your account? Your credit has always been very good, so we can cooperate happily. Fang Meng stood up, finally, I have a message for you. Liu Yan went out early this morning. I don't know what happened. Su Yongzhou raised the corner of his mouth, what else can I do, it's just an audition for a movie. How do you know? Fang Meng was a little surprised. I naturally have my channel. Su Yongzhou knocked on the table, go away, it will be bad if you are seen by many people later. Footsteps sounded, it should be Fang Meng leaving. After a while, Su Yongzhou made a phone call, and his voice had returned to his usual cheerfulness, with a familiar chuckle, hey, Director Chi? You said last time about that interesting character in the movie you were about to start shooting, why? So, have you found the right person? That's it. In fact, there is a newcomer who has been highly praised by the company recently. The one you've met is named Lian Yu. His plays are also quite good, and Mr. Su means to give the newcomers more chances. Director Chi, look, yes. Don't think about it again. Haha, then I'll thank Director Chi for President Su first. Let's have a meal together another day. Okay, no problem, I'll tell President Su, goodbye. Liu Yan didn't know when Su Yongzhou left, nor how long he had been sitting in that cafe. When he walked out in a daze, the sun was already in the west. The experience of the day was like a roller coaster ride, as was the feeling of going from heaven to hell. Angry at first. Liu Yan was so angry that he wanted to rush out and grab Su Yongzhou's collar to ask him why he did this. However, he is no longer the fledgling boy he was in the past. The most profound word he has been taught in the entertainment industry for so many years is forbearance. When you don't have absolute strength, you can only endure all the provocations and injustices on the other side, or you can only leave. This is the rules of the game, nothing is fair or unfair. It gradually became numb afterward. For the time after that, his head was a little groggy, and he thought about it a lot. When I was in school, I chased after you with Su Yongzhou. There was competition but the friendship deepened. Later, they struggled and worked hard in the entertainment industry, and the situation and achievements were farther and farther apart. Fortunately, the friendship was still there. The poor situation in these years has to be said that the warmth given by Su Yongzhou is one of the reasons for him to support. It turned out that everything was just an illusion. Liu Yan laughed at himself in his heart. He has always considered himself to be a wise man who knows current affairs and people better, but he was very wrong. I don't know how Su Yongzhou laughed at him in his heart every time he said thanks and good brother. Liu Yan even felt like vomiting when he thought of this. It was too bad. It turned out that it was not because of his bad luck, but because he met a villain. It's no wonder that I can never get a better role, and it's no wonder that every time I feel that the time has come, I will be awakened by reality. Compared with Fang Meng's betrayal, Liu Yan hated Su Yongzhou's betrayal even more. For Fang Meng, he had never expected from the beginning, and he had never really been sincere, so no matter what he did, he would not be hurt. However, Su Yongzhou could not. He was really took him to heart, and regarded him as a real friend and a real brother. Liu Yan also wondered why Su Yongzhou did this, but no matter what the reason was, it would not alleviate the hurt and hatred. But what if you know the truth? Just as Su Yongzhou said, apart from tearing his face, Liu Yan couldn't do anything, and they were no longer on the same level. After Su Yongzhou made that call, Liu Yan knew that the role he had been looking forward to for a long time was gone. It's ironic, after working so hard for so long, the other party only needs to say a word, this is the gap. Liu Yan lowered his head and thought in a dizzy way, and he didn't know what he was thinking about, until there was a rush of brakes and screams around him. As soon as Liu Yan raised his head, he saw the bright lights on the oncoming truck, which made him unable to open his eyes. He instinctively raised his hand and heard a bang, accompanied by a sharp pain from his body. I'm really unhappy. If I could do it all over again, if I could, do it all over again. This was Liu Yan's last consciousness. Liu Yan suddenly opened his eyes. From a blur to gradually clear. Not dead? Saved? Will it be disabled? It hurts so much when I get hit. He tried to move his fingers, very flexible, completely unobstructed, and he didn't feel the pain at all. Liu Yan sat up hard. I put my hands in front of my eyes and looked at it for a while, then my fingers moved again. Could it be that he had a dream that he was not hit by a car at all? Liu Yan was about to get up and get out of bed when he suddenly stopped. The bed was smaller and much higher off the ground. This is not my room. No, this is my room, or rather, it used to be. This is the dormitory where I lived in the school. As if remembering something, Liu Yan reached out and groped under the sheets, and sure enough he found a mobile phone. When he was living on campus, he used to put his mobile phone under the sheets while he was sleeping, but he didn't change this habit until he moved out of the dormitory and had his own room. Liu Yan turned on the phone and looked at the date, and his heart was shocked. Actually, really. This collision suddenly bumped the time back to many years ago. This year is the year he graduated and the year he officially embarked on the road of acting. Should I say unfortunate or fortunate? God actually gave him a chance to come back. Liu Yan was stunned for a while before accepting the status quo. It is not so much that he has a strong heart and strong receptive ability, but it is because he is completely disappointed with his original life. Since God gave him a chance to start all over again, then take it well. In this life, I will never be so naive as to be led by the nose of others, and my life must be in my own hands. Liu Yan slowly folded his fingers one by one into a fist, with a firm look in his eyes. Su Yongzhou approached from behind, and suddenly slapped Liu Yan on the shoulder, intending to jokingly scare him. Who knew that Liu Yan was unmoved at all, just put down the book, raised his head, and said hello, Yongzhou. You're back. Su Yongzhou came out from behind and sighed deliberately, hey, Liu Yan, you are so boring, it's getting more and more dull recently. A sunny and handsome face suddenly appeared in front of him, as if the brightness of the entire room had increased a bit. At this time, Su Yongzhou hadn't become a big star, and he didn't have the kind of professional smile on his face, who always put on a shelf and wore all kinds of glasses in the future. At this time, Su Yongzhou was still vivid and interesting. Su Yongzhou's appearance is no worse than Liu Yan's, but the two have two styles. Liu Yan's handsomeness has a bit of maturity and calmness that doesn't quite match his age, and even when he laughs, the feeling is faint. This is of course related to his upbringing environment, but there is also a little bit of indifference and alienation in his bones. The strange thing is that such Liu Yan unexpectedly makes people feel very reliable, and he is also a good person, so his popularity has always been very good. Su Yongzhou is the kind of bright and handsome boy next door. When he laughs, he likes to narrow his eyes slightly, giving people a feeling of gentleness and shyness. He is very popular with some girls with certain feelings nowadays. Welcome. Later, after he became more and more famous, that shallow astringency gradually grew into a kind of atmosphere, and there was a sense of distance behind that gentle smile. Sometimes Liu Yan couldn't even connect the entire Su Yongzhou in front of him with the later Su Yongzhou. It can only be said that Vanity Fair is really a big divat, it will make a person less like himself. But who knows, Liu Yan didn't really see through Su Yongzhou in the last life, otherwise he wouldn't have fallen so badly. Liu Yan smiled lightly, "You are too naive, future big star. After you become famous, these are all black history. I think that if you sell it, your fans will be very impressed." Su Yongzhou chuckled, "I'll talk about the future, and I know you won't betray me." "That's right, brother." He stretched out his hand and hooked Liu Yan's neck, pulling him forward, and the two leaned against each other. He got closer, so he stared into his eyes and said again, "But speaking of it, you've been a little weird lately. Is there anything unhappy about it? Tell me quickly to make my brother happy." Liu Yan narrowed his eyes, pulled his hand away, put away the emotions that surged up in an instant, and covered up, "What's on your mind? You're too sensitive. Maybe you're a little nervous about tomorrow's audition." When he came back after being reborn, facing Su Yongzhou who didn't know anything, Liu Yan's mood was a bit complicated. At this time, Su Yongzhou had not done anything to feel sorry for him, but the feeling of being hurt and betrayed had been deeply rooted in his heart, and that faint disgust and resentment would always come from the bottom of his heart from time to time. Fortunately, from the last life to this life, they are all people who eat, and it is common to hide emotions. Therefore, although Su Yongzhou noticed that something was wrong with Liu Yan recently, he didn't think too much about it. He said this and immediately accepted the reason. Su Yongzhou patted Liu Yan on the shoulder, half joking and half serious, "What are you nervous about? It's me who should be nervous. With you here, I think I basically have no chance," he said and shrugged playfully. Liu Yan was so amused that he couldn't help laughing, and in turn comforted, "I don't know anything yet, your chance is not smaller than mine." Liu Yan actually knew it. In the last life, or before the rebirth, this role really belonged to Su Yongzhou, which means that in tomorrow's audition, the final winner is Su Yongzhou. It's just that Liu Yan had an accident in the last life and didn't participate in this audition. So whether history can be changed, Liu Yan can't say for sure now. To be honest, he is really a little nervous in his heart. The two were chatting, and the phone in the room rang. It was a call from the delivery room. There was a package from Liu Yan, and he asked him to go down and pick it up. The apartment they live in can be said to be the best student apartment in the entire school. The facilities are quite complete. Each room is equipped with a landline phone, but now everyone has a mobile phone. This landline phone, the biggest role is to answer calls from the delivery room to express delivery. Walking out of the room, Liu Yan glanced at the elevator. The indicator light was on normally, but instead of pressing the down button, he opened the safety door next to him and walked out. The reception room was still some distance away from the apartment, so Liu Yan was not in a hurry and walked over slowly. Arriving at the delivery room, Liu Yan signed and got his package. It was a book he bought on the internet a few days ago. He took advantage of the situation and opened the package. When he was about to go downstairs in the apartment, the phone rang. Liu Yan took it out and saw that it was a call from Su Yongzhou. After pressing the answer button, there was a panting voice from Su Yongzhou, a little hurriedly, "Liu Yan, are you all right?" Liu Yan replied calmly, "I'm fine." "What's the matter?" Just as he was talking, he saw Su Yongzhou running out sweating profusely. He seemed relieved to see him from a distance. He hung up the phone and walked a few steps over. When he stopped in front of him, he couldn't help but bent down and put his hands on his knees and gasped for a while. Got off, then straightened up and said, "It's great that you didn't take the elevator. When you went out just now, the elevator suddenly lost control and fell from the third floor. There seem to be a few people inside, who are now being rescued. I'm also worried that you're in there too." Liu Yan looked at him from anxiety at the beginning to relaxation later, and his mood was a little complicated. He is really worried about me. Liu Yan thought. Whether it's acting or true love, Liu Yan is a mid-level expert, so he can see through it naturally. What's more, Su Yongzhou at this time is not yet an actor in the future, but at this time Liu Yan has experienced all kinds of tempering in later generations and became more and more proficient. He used to really treat me as a good friend and brother. This realization made Liu Yan, who had been tormented by hatred, feel a lot better. As for why it will change so much in the future, let's wait until the truth is found out slowly in the future. So Liu Yan smiled and hugged Su Yongzhou's shoulder. "It seems that I was lucky. Fortunately, I didn't have the patience to wait for the elevator and walked down by myself. Let's go, I'll treat you to dinner for the sake of my escape." It's luck and it's not luck. In fact, Liu Yan knew from the beginning that something would happen to the elevator at this time. Because in the last life, Liu Yan did not escape this catastrophe. He was in the out-of-control elevator, along with 4 or 5 other people trapped, all injured. Everyone has some common sense of self-help when the elevator is out of control, and when the elevator is out of control, the elevator is not far from the ground, so they are only slightly injured. Only Liu Yan is more unlucky, breaking his leg, and then lying in the hospital for almost 3 months, not only missed the important audition on the second day, but also missed the golden period when the mentor recommended to the crew and selected the crew when he was about to graduate. Just like the audition tomorrow, it was recommended by the instructor, so Liu Yan and Su Yongzhou will participate together. I have to say that Liu Yan in the last life was really unlucky. And this elevator out of control is really a real accident, there is no human factor. Because of Liu Yan's absence, Su Yongzhou got the role very smoothly, and then he was nominated for the Best Supporting Actor in the Baiko Award for this role. Although it cannot be said that Su Yongzhou became popular because of this role, it is indeed because of this that he has laid a good foundation in the entertainment industry. I have to say that Su Yongzhou in the last life was very lucky. It's just that now, Liu Yan is reliving his past memories, and it's hard to say how the fate of the two will change. The next day, Liu Yan and Su Yongzhou arrived at the audition site on time. There were a total of 13 people competing for the role, including them. The two took their number plates and a script and waited outside. Before today, none of them knew what role they were about to audition for, nor what the film was about, but the director of the film alone was enough for people to flock to it. The director of the film is Li Ran. Generally speaking, apart from people in the industry, ordinary audiences often only remember the various actors who appeared on the screen. For the director behind the scenes, they can remember very limited. Li Ran belongs to the one that even ordinary people are familiar with. Li Ran is a very interesting director. He has made art films and commercial films. Of course, this is not surprising. Basically, all directors have made these two types of films. It's just that the art films he shoots are always considered commercial films, and the commercial films he shoots always have too much literary and artistic elements. Of course, that's not the point. The point is that his films are always very popular, and he even has a group of his own fans. No matter who his actors are, what themes and genres of the films he shoots, as long as he participates in them, they will all join in. Therefore, when Li Ran looks for an actor, he never looks at how popular he is, how strong his background is, how tough the backstage is, or even regardless of the person's unprofessional character, it only depends on whether he is suitable for the role. Therefore, his films can always capture his own taste. There are many people who want to play with him, but the way he chooses actors is the same as the movies he made, never playing cards according to the rules. Sometimes he will follow the formal procedures, sometimes he will go directly to the major performance academies to select people, and sometimes he will find someone to recommend. It is said that the most exaggerated one, he stood at the most prosperous intersection in the city center for 3 days, and then suddenly named a passerby to play the protagonist of one of his films. I have to say that Li Ran's eyes are still poisonous and accurate. Although the passerby he picked out has no acting experience and no experience at all, it is really suitable to play his role. As for how much resources Li Ran mobilized to cooperate with this newcomer who can't find a camera at all, it's not very humane. The newcomer also became an instant hit. It's just that after all, I have no experience, and I didn't meet a suitable role again, and soon disappeared. Of course, Li Ran's reputation has become even more legendary. These are what Liu Yan of the previous life learned. Although the current Li Ran is not as legendary as Liu Yan knew in the previous life, he is already very famous. And this time, Li Ran chose this role by asking a familiar teacher to recommend students from the Academy of Performing Arts. Liu Yan is also very familiar with this movie and this character. Although many years have passed, Liu Yan, who was in the last life, has never been able to find his chance again after missing this movie and this role. Therefore, every time he fell into a low ebb, Liu Yan would always find this film and watch it repeatedly, study it repeatedly, and let it go to make up for that mistake. This is a spy movie. Although in the following years, espionage warfare has become a popular theme, there have been several follow-up works in both movies and TV, and of course there are many excellent works. But at that time and now, Li Ran's spy war film can be said to be the first of its kind. Coupled with Li Ran's reputation and the strength of several leading actors, the box office of this film is very high, and it is also there. He has won a lot of awards at the one-year Baiko Awards. And the role that Liu Yan and the others are going to audition for today is one of the important supporting roles. This is a young officer who has returned from studying abroad, is full of enthusiasm for serving the country, and has some aristocratic atmosphere. During the 8-year anti-Japanese war, on the orders of Shang Feng, he broke into the Wang puppet regime and became a spy. When the story happened, it was during the cooperation between the two parties. An underground party had an important piece of information and was stranded in Shanghai. His task was to use all available relationships and abilities to the underground party to blockade the entire city of the Japanese invaders. Exit safely. Ironically, when this young officer met with the underground party, he found that the other party was the young man who took the lead in copying his own home during the National Revolution. The enemy is extremely jealous when they meet, but the other party is the person he has been ordered to protect. Between the righteousness of the country and the personal enmity of the family, he struggled and struggled. In the end, he finally gave up his personal enmity and even sacrificed himself in order to protect himself. The scene in the script Liu Yan and the others had in their hands was the scene where the young officer recognized the other party. This scene is not easy to play. The inner shock, hatred, struggle, and restraint of the characters must be properly expressed in just a few shots. Even they are not so easy. The reason why Li Ran is selected among the recommended students is to be young and have a foundation. And the actors in the circle who can meet his requirements are either out of schedule or not in line, so they decided to use newcomers. Anyway, it is not the first time that he has used newcomers to play important roles in a movie. When it was Liu Yan's turn, 7 people had passed in front of him, and when they came out, they were basically frustrated. In the last life, Su Yongzhou got this role, and Liu Yan knew Su Yongzhou's ability. Since these people were not Su Yongzhou's opponents, Liu Yan naturally wouldn't take it too seriously. There were 3 people in the room. Sitting in the middle, the man with disheveled hair and a somewhat gloomy face was the director Li Ran, and the gentle-looking middle-aged man sitting on his right, Liu Yan, also recognized him. It is the gold medal screenwriter Yan Zhan. But the handsome man sitting on Li Ran's left hand with a playful smile on his face surprised Liu Yan. It turned out to be him, Suju, the vice president and general manager of Singkong Film and Television Entertainment, and the investor of the film. Liu Yan frowned inwardly. The reason why Su Yongzhou in the last life was able to climb so fast in the entertainment circle where dragons and snakes were mixed, was so successful, in addition to his own strength, it was precisely because he climbed a good backer, which is the one in front of him. Young Suju. According to legend, their relationship is very unusual, and Suju is also a master of both men and women. The speaker looked ambiguous, and the listener smiled knowingly. Liu Yan had naturally heard such rumors. As for the facts, he didn't care. What if it were true? The entertainment industry is not a great hall. It never laughs at the poor and never laughs at prostitutes. It is also a skill to be able to achieve such achievements through unspoken rules, isn't it? Moreover, Liu Yan believed in Su Yongzhou's ability. It's just a fact that they have a close relationship. Liu Yan in the previous life had not participated in this audition, and naturally it was not the first time he saw Suju here. But it turned out that they had known each other so early. Liu Yan was not so sure at first. Although it is said that Li Ran never sells anyone's face, the legend also says that his relationship with the Su brothers is too good to say. I don't know if Su Yongzhou in this life can still get into Suju's eyes. In any case, showing your strength is a prerequisite for success. Liu Yan suppressed all his emotions, and said without being humble or arrogant, "Hello Director Li, my name is Liu Yan, Lu of Lu, derived Yan. I was recommended by Mr. Chen Swimming." Li Ran raised his head, his eyes were straight, and then he cheered up a little, as if he was quite satisfied with his first impression, and pointed to the script in his hand, "Let's play a paragraph." Without saying a word, Liu Yan put down the script, pondered for a while, and walked to the middle. Liu Yan is no stranger to this scene. In that movie that year, Su Yongzhou's handling of the scene was not particularly good, but it was quite satisfactory, and there was nothing wrong with it. However, for them who had higher requirements, it was a bit insufficient. Afterwards, Liu Yan also heard Su Yongzhou mention that he regretted that he was inexperienced at the time and that it was the first time that he did not perform well enough to play an important role. So Liu Yan also studied it very carefully, and today is the time to accept the results. Liu Yan lowered his head slightly and let out a secret sigh, and when he lifted it up again, his eyes had completely changed. His pupils shrank suddenly, as if seeing something extremely shocking. His thin lips pursed unconsciously, and even clenched his teeth secretly in order to prevent trembling. At this moment, the turbulent emotion in his eyes was so strong that it was shocking. The whole room was silent, and even Suju, who had a playful smile on his face, restrained his smile, and put down the hand he was holding. His face was solemn, as if carried into that intense emotion. This suffocating atmosphere lasted for a while. All Liu Yan's emotions were condensed in his eyes, but his face remained calm. Only the hand that was slowly clenched and released by the trouser leg showed his restraint. Finally, he clenched his hands for the last time, closed his eyes gently, and when he opened them again, all his emotions had been hidden in the depths, and he could no longer find them, and there was only peace in his eyes. He slowly raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a smile that didn't reach the bottom of his eyes, stretched out his right hand, and faced the hypothetical opponent on the opposite side, calmly said his first and only line, "Hello, He Jing Jun, come here. The person who picks you up." As the words fell, Liu Yan's entire performance was over. Just now, the oppressive aura that suddenly appeared all over his body has disappeared. Standing in front of him is still Liu Yan, a graduating film academy student who came to audition calmly. After a while, a few scattered applause broke out in the room, breaking the silence of the room. The one who applauded was Suju, and he put on that signature playful smile again, but there was undisguised wonder and admiration in his eyes. Yan Zhan also nodded to Li Ran with a smile on his face, and it could be seen that he was also satisfied. Although Li Ran didn't smile, his expression was not as tense as it was at the beginning, and the depression on his face was gone. He scratched his messy hair, picked up the registration form at hand, and looked at it again. Isn't Liu Yan very good? He has a good grasp of the character's emotions and hearts. But it doesn't seem like the first time. Why, have you studied the script before? Liu Yan was startled, and secretly regretted that he had performed too much. He forgot that this was the first time he had come into contact with the script, and he couldn't help but secretly praised that he was indeed the most professional director. A professional enough actor. Liu Yan was only slightly startled, and before the others even noticed his startling, he had already adjusted. He smiled, showing a somewhat happy expression. I ran a few studios before and saw having played similar roles. I thought it was very interesting, so I deliberately studied it. I didn't expect it to be so coincidental, and I ran into it today. It's my luck. Li Ran nodded. The script was just decided by him and Yan Zhan a few days ago. Although it was not kept secret, it should not be leaked so quickly. Besides, 2 days are not enough for people to speculate on this point. He just said that sentence casually, and Liu Yan's explanation is also very reasonable. It is normal for students like them to go around the studio before they start their careers. Although such a role is interesting, it is not exclusive, so he accepted it. I understand what he said, and I quite appreciate his frankness and hard work, which naturally makes my impression a little better. Li Ran habitually tapped on the registration form. You go back to prepare first, and then I will ask the assistant to contact you. After half a month, you'd better find an assistant. If not, the crew will arrange it for you. Li Ran's resolute decision made Liu Yan really startled, but this person often behaves unexpectedly, not to mention that his goal has been achieved, and he is always more than surprised. Liu Yan didn't hide his surprise and joy too much, and immediately responded, then let the crew arrange it. On the contrary, Yan Zhan felt that something was wrong, and reminded Li Ran in a low voice, Director Li, there are still several people waiting to audition. Wouldn't it be too much to say without a chance to pass the show? Li Ran waved his hand, you have already found the most suitable ones, so don't waste any more time. There are suitable roles in the back, so just call them. Yan Zhan couldn't say anything else. As for Suju, he originally came to watch the fun, so naturally he would not have any opinions. After Su Yongzhou knew the result, he felt a little uncomfortable. Although he knew that the chance of having Liu Yan in him was not high, it was too embarrassing that he didn't even have the chance to try it. Liu Yan looked at him with an unnatural smile and said congratulations. He didn't say some consoling words hypocritically, but just smiled lightly. Half a month passed quickly, and after Liu Yan arranged the things to be dealt with in the school that he was about to graduate, he simply carried a bag and went to report to the crew in the film and television city by himself. When the assistant called him to confirm, he told him that the crew had arranged for him an assistant named Song Hui, who would take care of all his chores in the crew. The two had already contacted by phone before coming, so Liu Yan wasn't too surprised that he saw a big sign with his name on it as soon as he got out of the car in the film and television city. The person holding the sign was a young man, tall and thin, wearing a light-colored shirt. Because of the hot weather, there was a lot of sweat on his face. It should have been waiting for a while. The road was blocked and the car got off, almost an hour later than the scheduled time, but there was no impatient look on the young man's face. Liu Yan was originally very outstanding, and he could be noticed at a glance when he stood in the crowd. At this time, there were not many people in the film and television city, and he was almost the only one carrying luggage. So before he could walk over, the young man holding the sign trotted over, put away the sign and asked with a smile, "Hello, my name is Song Hui, is this Liu Yan, brother Liu?" Liu Yan nodded and stretched out his hand, "I'm Liu Yan, I got off the road in a traffic jam, wait for a long time, thank you for your hard work." Song Hui hurriedly stretched out his hand and shook it, then released it, and shook his head with a smile, "It didn't take long, it should be." After saying that, he took the luggage from Liu Yan's hand, made a gesture of invitation, and said as he walked, "The place to live has been arranged, it's a little rough, don't mind Luge. The crew will officially start work tomorrow, and it's fine today. Rest a while." When he got to the room, Liu Yan felt that the simple that Song Hui had just said was a little too modest. Although the condition of the room was not very good, it was clean and tidy. Although Liu Yan in this life is the first time he has entered a formal crew, he was unlucky in the previous life, and he has also filmed a lot of scenes, big and small. Naturally, there are many crews, and some are not on the stage. Rules is also well known. For a newcomer like him, although the role still has some weight, after all, the qualifications are there, it is already very good to be able to live in a room of this level. There may be some factors of its own, but the assistant's advance care is also very important. Liu Yan is not a new performer in the true sense. Naturally, he understands the importance of a good assistant. Many times, it will save you a lot of trouble and even add a lot of convenience. From the beginning of the meeting to now, he has been observing quietly, and I have to say that as an assistant, Song Hui is really qualified, which makes Liu Yan, who has never enjoyed a satisfactory assistant treatment in his previous life, very comfortable. I am also very satisfied, I don't know who arranged such a caring assistant for him. If possible, Liu Yan has even begun to consider whether Song Hui can become his personal assistant in the future. Of course, it's still a long way to think about these things now, and it's the focus that looks ahead. After a day of driving, Liu Yan asked Song Hui about the itinerary for the next day, and decided to rest early to recharge. A new life begins here. Liu Yan thought this before closing his eyes. The next day, Liu Yan woke up early, and for the first time since his rebirth, he slept so soundly, indescribably refreshed. Surprisingly, Song Hui got up earlier than him, bought breakfast, and had everything ready. Liu Yan felt more satisfied. Sacrifice to the gods before starting the movie, which is almost the same arrangement for every crew. This time is no exception. At exactly 9 o'clock, the sacrifice to the gods began. Perhaps it was done too much, and the ceremony had already been simplified. The sacrifices of tea and wine were placed, and incense was put in. The crew members worshipped in turn and it was over. It is estimated that the propaganda of this movie takes a mysterious route, and there are not many reporters present, and they are all the ones who usually have a good relationship. After the sacrifice to the gods, the lighting and photography are ready and the machine is turned on directly. The first scene was the protagonist's play. There was nothing to do with Liu Yan, and he still stood aside and watched it seriously. The protagonist of this play is Gu Yang, who has just won the Golden Bell Award for Best Actor and can be said to be one of the hottest actors nowadays. Gu Yang is not particularly outstanding, just above the average level, but his acting skills are really good. After all, the entertainment industry is a place where people rely on their faces to eat. Because of their appearance, it took many years to get the results they are today, but no matter what, they can be considered to be over the top, and an actor like him who relies on strength to eat, as long as there is no big problem, the professional vitality is still quite long. At least there is no need to worry about the decline in popularity caused by the empathy of fans after aesthetic fatigue. The actor is worthy of being an actor. The first one passed smoothly, the second and third also went smoothly. After that, a small supporting role was added, and it was only a few NGS. In general, the efficiency is still very high, and Director Li, who has always been strict, nodded with satisfaction, and there was a little smile on his usually serious face. Liu Yan has been watching it carefully. Today, there was only one scene of him in the afternoon, and it was soon over, but he stayed on the set from beginning to end to observe and study. It felt really rewarding throughout the day. In the last life, Liu Yan did not work with Gu Yang. I have seen a lot of his plays, but I have not seen his acting state directly. I have always heard that Gu Yang's acting skills are very good, but I did not expect it to be so good. You can be infected just by looking at it, let alone playing with him directly. Thinking of the rivalry with Gu Yang tomorrow, Liu Yan was so excited that his blood surged, as if he was looking forward to the duel between the masters. On the third day, Liu Yan still arrived on the set early. The summer morning was not too cold. Liu Yan wore a long-sleeved shirt, so he couldn't feel the coolness. Taking a deep breath, I felt my internal organs have been cleaned up. Today Liu Yan only had one scene, but it was a very important scene. It was the scene he tried during the audition. The difference was that at that time he was facing a virtual opponent, but this time, it's real, and the actor who plays against him is the actor Gu Yang, who is very skilled. Liu Yan had memorized the lines by heart the night before, and the scenes were simulated over and over again in his mind. In fact, Liu Yan is a newcomer now, no one will criticize him too much even if he makes a mistake, but he does not allow himself to be slack. From the moment he was reborn, he had higher requirements and goals for his life. He had to take every step down, grasp every opportunity firmly, and never let go for a moment. The makeup was done quickly, because it is a modern drama and it is an actor, so I can save a lot of trouble in this regard. There are still a few other people's plays ahead, and it will be his own later, so Liu Yan didn't go to other people's filming anymore, and Song Hui, who was by his side, also bought water for him, and he sat alone for a while to rest. Liu Yan then lowered his head slightly, and a pair of feet slowly appeared in front of him. Standing in front of him, he couldn't help but raise his head. He was a little surprised by the person who came, and he quickly stood up. Gu Yang smiled at the slightly nervous young man in front of him. Is your name Liu Yan? Yes. Liu Yan nodded, thought about it, and called, Senior Gu Yang. Gu Yang was stunned when he heard his name, then burst out laughing, and stopped quickly, still smiling. It's a bit strange that few people call me that. Liu Yan felt a little embarrassed. I also think it's a little weird. Otherwise, if the seniors don't dislike it, can I call you Brother Yang? Gu Yang nodded immediately. Of course, this is much more pleasing to the ear. Then he added with a little joke, as long as you don't call it Brother Gu. The two looked at each other and laughed, and the strangeness at the beginning also faded a lot. Gu Yang smiled and explained his intention. Wait a minute, that scene is a little difficult, are you a little nervous now? Liu Yan said in his heart that Gu Yang is really a good person. He doesn't have the air of a big star. He was afraid that the newcomer would be nervous and came to comfort him. Of course, he was not nervous in his heart, but he couldn't show it, so he showed a slightly restrained smile. I'm a little nervous. Gu Yang patted him on the shoulder. Don't be nervous, just relax. I heard that you tried this scene when you auditioned, and you performed very well. Director Li even praised you a few times. It's just the way it feels. Liu Yan smiled modestly. Director Li praised it. Director Li doesn't easily praise people. Gu Yang was half serious and half joking. I have worked with Director Li several times, but I rarely hear him praise people. I also watched your scene yesterday, although there is only one shot, and the sense of drama and shot is quite good. I heard that you were all excellent in school, and it is true that a famous teacher has a great apprentice, and the future generations are terrifying. Liu Yan made a flattered expression. Brother Yang also watched my play, I really dare not take it. Gu Yang smiled. You didn't watch my play all day yesterday. It's rare to see young people as hard-working as you these days. I've just entered the industry, and there's still a lot to learn. Liu Yan continued to play the role of a humble junior. The two chatted like that. Liu Yan felt that although Gu Yang was already a popular star, he was surprisingly easy to get along with. Gu Yang also felt that this young junior was humble and worked hard to understand the general advance and retreat. By the time their filming started, the two had known each other for many years and had a tacit understanding. And this tacit understanding was also brought into their play. This very important and difficult play passed smoothly with almost no obstacles, which surprised Li Ran, who had prepared for NG more than a dozen times. Some time after that, Liu Yan and Gu Yang became acquainted with each other. In their free time, they often discussed some things about acting, and they both gained a lot from each other. Of course, Liu Yan also used Gu Yang to form a relationship with more crew members. More than a month has passed, and Liu Yan has already adapted to the rhythm of the crew. There were several of his plays on and off during the period. As an important supporting role in the play, his role is not too much, but not too much. Liu Yan cherishes every minute and second standing in front of the camera. Every scene is very attentive, even if there is only one back scene. His hard work coupled with his original talent made his every scene go quite smoothly, and more importantly, he could not only play his role well, but also calmly arouse the emotions of his opponents. People with a low number of paragraphs may not be able to see it, but director Li Ran, who is proficient in this way, will naturally not be able to see it. In addition to being surprised, he appreciates and is more satisfied with Liu Yan. Between filming, Liu Yan stayed on the set. First, as a newcomer who has just debuted, he has not had time to sign with any agency. Apart from this movie, he has no other announcements, and he has nowhere to go if he has time. Secondly, in addition to learning from others on the set, he will also do some small things within his power, such as moving props and the like. Therefore, the crew up and down all have a good impression of this rookie actor who works hard, looks handsome, and is willing to help others without being pretentious. The entertainment industry is also a place that pays attention to human relationships. If you respect others a foot, others will naturally give you an inch. Liu Yan not only worked hard to brush up the goodwill of the director and Gu Yang, but also devoted himself to building good relationships with other people. As the saying goes, the king of hell is easy to meet, and little devils are difficult to deal with. Liu Yan can be said to have struggled at the bottom of the entertainment industry in his last life, so he naturally understands the role of little people better. Liu Yan was not someone who was easy to be hated by people. In addition, he calmly and deliberately made friends. Although it was only a short month, the results were quite good. Gaining the approval of these people doesn't help the big ones, but the subtle benefits are everywhere. For example, the lunchbox Liu Yan receives is full of weight and the dishes are also good. Every time he goes on stage, his makeup is always very clean, which makes people feel comfortable to look at, and the camera lens of the photographer also particularly favors him. Often the angle of his entry is particularly pleasing to the eye, which makes his appearance advantages more obvious. Of course, no matter how low-key, humble and amiable Liu Yan behaves, most people have a good impression of him, but there will always be a few who don't buy it, the most obvious of which are Yan Shaowai and Mu Xiao. Yan Shaowai is the real second male lead in this film, and one of Star Entertainment's most popular artists recently. Yan Shaowai made his debut as a singer. He stood out in a singing competition when he was only 18 years old. He won the runner-up and the highest popularity award in that competition with his pleasant appearance and excellent voice. After several years of experience, the champion of that game has long since disappeared in the ever-changing entertainment industry, but he has released several records and his popularity has not diminished. It's just that in recent years, with the increasing number of various auditions and singing competitions, the number of newcomers who have debuted has also increased day by day. With more monks and less porridge, Yan Shaowai's singing career has also reached a bottleneck. In order not to waste him a few, the popularity accumulated over the years is ready for him to develop in multiple habitats. As the so-called singing and good acting, there have always been many singers who have switched to the acting circle. This film is directed by Lee Ran and invested by Sean Kong. Naturally, it is a good bridge board. As the director of Starry Sky, Lee Ran is a little dissatisfied with the number 2 airborne man, but fortunately, it is not a role that requires too much acting skills. He has the role of Emperor Guiyang and Yan Shaowai's high popularity, so he reluctantly accepts it. Even when this movie was promoted, it was under the banner of actor Guiyang joining and popular singer Yan Shaowai being electrocuted for the first time. Speaking of which, Yan Shaowai didn't like Liu Yan's eyes, which was not only a disaster, but also reasonable. Yan Shaowai's song is good, but his acting skills are mediocre. However, he is the second male lead, and he has a heavy role in acting. Lee Ran is also famous for his high demands in the circle. Under frequent NGS, director Lee, who has a bad temper, becomes irritable and points to Yan Shaowai several times. His nose scolded him ashen. Yan Shaowai has been smooth sailing since his debut. He has always been held in the palm of his hand by the company's fans. He has never been so angry. If it was a different person, he might just throw his hands away in a fit of anger, but Lee Ran has a special status. He couldn't afford to offend and didn't dare to offend, no matter how much grievances he had, he could only swallow it in his stomach, making this arrogant young man full of anger. In contrast, Liu Yan, who has never been scolded by director Lee or even praised so many times, is particularly eye-catching. Yan Shaowai made his debut early, so although he is not older than Liu Yan, his qualifications are still deeper than Liu Yan. Not to mention his acting skills, Liu Yan was born in a major, and it is said that he was excellent in all subjects when he was in school. The shape is also comparable. Yan Shaowai was very popular as soon as he debuted. He sings well as one aspect, but more importantly, of course, he looks good. Yan Shaowai's good looks belong to the beautiful boy category, and are completely different from Liu Yan's handsome and handsome. Although it is more popular to be a handsome man, Yan Shaowai is not mindless. He naturally knows that most of his fans are idiots of young nympho. When they get older, they may abandon themselves and even laugh at them. They are crazy young, and a model like Liu Yan's is easier to attract fans of different ages and lasts longer. However, in today's entertainment industry, the beautiful flowers are replaced in batches, and those charming uncles are the ones who really last forever. It's not that Yan Shaowai doesn't have a sense of crisis, but he doesn't think about it subconsciously, and at the same time tries hard to transform, but Liu Yan's existence seems to remind him how to make him feel comfortable. Even more popular than him. At least compared to Liu Yan, Yan Shaowai is also considered to be famous and well known. He also understands that he has to make a good impression on others during the critical period of his transformation, so he tried his best to restrain his temper and arrogance, and try to be an unpretentious person. The star who treats people kindly, even paid for the whole crew to have tea and snacks. What he did was not ineffective. The whole crew had a good impression of him, and there were a lot of compliments in person and behind the scenes. They all said that he was not as difficult to get along with as rumored by the outside world. There was no dissatisfaction at first, but seeing that Liu Yanming did not do as much as he did, it made most people get closer to him. Although everyone was shouting from Xiao Liu and Xiao Liu, but to himself, it was Hui. The honorable title of young master, but it is natural to tell who is scornful and who is close to Yan Shaowai, so he is even more angry with Liu Yan. To be honest, this is really not the difference between true feelings and falsehoods, the difference lies in acting skills and personality charm. They were all in the same crew, looking up but not looking down. Every time they met, Yan Shaowai couldn't help sneering at Liu Yan. Liu Yan always just smiled faintly, took it calmly, neither angry nor bothered with him. On the contrary, his assistant Song Hui couldn't stand it, and frowned and complained a few words in private. Liu Yan comforted him in return. In fact, Liu Yan really didn't take it to heart. He was more mature than his actual age after being reborn once. In his eyes, Yan Shaowai was just an angry child. It was said that Yan Shaowai was just a few words of sarcasm, and it was irrelevant, that is, what he really wanted to do. Liu Yan was also a soldier to block the water and cover it with soil. What's more, not being envied is mediocre, which also shows that Liu Yan has potential, doesn't it? He is walking towards his goal step by step. When a person has a big enough goal, the small stones on the road can naturally be ignored. To say that Yan Shaowai's hostility is still well-founded, then Mu Xiao's sideways glance at Liu Yan is really inexplicable. Mu Xiao is the heroine in the play. In the play, the heroine played by Mu Xiao and the character He Jingjun played by Liu Yan were classmates when they were studying abroad, and even He Jingjun secretly admired her. After the incident, He Jingjun learned that the woman he admired and the enemy of his family were now when the people to be protected are together, they have mixed feelings. The two rivalry scenes are also quite exciting. In the end, He Jingjun is willing to use his own life to pave a way for the protagonist to survive. It is a matter of opinion whether there is an element of the heroine. Mu Xiren is pretty, and she is the kind of sweet and pretty, and her acting skills are not too good, not too bad either. When she first debuted, she acted in several idol dramas, but unfortunately the response was mediocre. Later, she moved to the big screen, from the role of Vase at the beginning, to the position of the heroine. Her greatest achievement was winning Best Supporting Actress for her role as a split villain. Liu Yan had also seen that movie, and was quite surprised that such a small woman who usually looks gentle would have such explosive power. It's a pity that there is no such amazing performance after that, or I haven't met a character with enough energy. As for the heroine who starred in this movie, although Liu Yan felt that her appearance was somewhat inconsistent with the strong and capable character in the script, after the real shooting started, her acting skills were enough to make up for this deficiency, and she even added more to the role. With a graceful attitude, it can be seen that director Li is actually quite satisfied with her. Therefore, Liu Yan did not agree with the rumors that she was able to play the heroine because of the investors. Mu Xiao is a relatively low-key person, although he is not particularly close to people, he does not put on airs very much, and he maintains a polite sense of distance to almost everyone. However, Liu Yan keenly felt that she seemed to have a vague hostility towards herself, and she would frown slightly with reluctance when she was playing. Perhaps because of such emotions, the two opponents' scenes were not particularly smooth, and the number of engs is far more than their other scenes. Fortunately, Mu Xiao is also considered dedicated, and he slowly adjusted after a few times, but the hostility was always there. Liu Yan felt a little helpless secretly, and touched his nose. Although he never expected to be on good terms with everyone, he was still somewhat unhappy to be so inexplicably hostile. Simply throw it away and do your part well. It wasn't until what happened shortly after that that Liu Yan vaguely understood why Mu Xiao was targeting, and it also gave him, who knew the past, an indescribable feeling of embarrassment. That day, Liu Yan arrived on the set much later than usual. Anyway, he didn't have a scene in the morning. It was a love to be early, and a duty to be late. There was nothing wrong with it. As soon as Liu Yan arrived on the set, he felt that today's atmosphere was a bit weird. It was much quieter than usual, but it seemed that everyone was more excited than usual, especially those big supporting characters who were pretty good looking, all dressed up nicely. Beautiful but pretending to be reserved, like a beautiful girl waiting to be selected in ancient times. Liu Yanzhen was a little puzzled. Song Hui, an assistant who had been on the set a long time ago, saw him coming, and hurriedly came over and handed him a thermos cup with tea. Most people like to drink cool mineral water on hot days. Liu Yan prefers to drink hot tea because of his habit, even in such weather. At first, he didn't specifically tell anyone, but after bringing his own tea for a few days, Song Hui began to prepare hot tea for him every day, and gradually Liu Yan stopped bringing his own. I have to say that Song Hui is really hard to pick as an assistant. Not only is he dedicated to his work, he is also very observant, and he is not very considerate, which is really rare. Liu Yan took the thermos cup, and after opening it, a fragrance wafted into his nostrils along with the heat. Liu Yan likes to drink oolong tea, especially Taiguanyan from Fujian. The tea Song Hui prepared was occasionally different, but most of the time it was Taiguanyan, which was very considerate. Liu Yan took a sip of tea and glanced around. What happened today? Song Hui smiled. I don't know how late brother Liu came, but a big man came to the studio today, and everyone is fighting for a good performance. Liu Yan was a little puzzled. Big man. Song Hui pursed his lips toward one place. Well, it's over there. Liu Yan Shun looked over. There was a group of people surrounded by people who didn't dare to get too close, just sitting casually, but there was an indescribable elegance, like the extravagance brought out of his bones. His smile was still the same. It's a little cynical and playful, but not annoying, but rather sexy. Truly a big man. Isn't that right? The film's investor, the director of Starry Sky, Liu Yan had met during the audition, the second young master of the Su family, and Suju. Then a group of people surrounded Suju, their eyes lit up. Most of them were flattering, but of course it wasn't obvious, everyone was acting, and they didn't look good if they were too explicit. However, Mu Xiao occupied the position beside Suju, and his whole body was almost attached to him. The smile was very gentle and sweet, and the people were very charming and moving. The whispered jokes also seemed very intimate. Fang Fo was deliberately showing their relationship to everyone. Substantial. Suju's eyes were indulgent and meaningless, and Mu Xiao's actions made his eyes more interesting, but he did not refuse to cooperate. Of course Liu Yan didn't follow him, it wasn't because he was so aloof, or because he resented such behavior. The entertainment industry is the most realistic place. If you don't have a background and want to climb up, don't pretend to be arrogant with the so-called self-esteem. No one eats this. Liu Yan was not a hot-blooded young man at first, and he had a warm and cold relationship. He had known from an early age that things were impermanent. He was always calm and rational, and only did what was most beneficial to him. The reason why he doesn't join up is not that he disdains to be associated with people who have more power in the circle, but that he knows that it's not good to be high, and it's not advisable to put yourself too low, and one doesn't even respect himself. How can others respect you and value you? Liu Yan is better at capturing opportunities, trying his best to leave a good enough impression at the most natural and appropriate time without making people feel too deliberate. And when the opportunity has not come, he is also good at waiting. At this moment, Liu Yan was thinking about another thing. Looking at Mu Xiao's current performance, the rumor doesn't seem to come out of nowhere. Not to mention whether Mu Xiao's role as the heroine in this movie is due to Suju's factors, at least their relationship is indeed as unsightly as the rumors suggest. So, what about Su Yongzhou in the last life? Although the development of things has been different from the previous life, Liu Yan still can't completely let go of Su Yongzhou. After all, his ability is there. Although he did not get this role, as long as there are no accidents, he will definitely come out. Then at that time, will he still target himself? Liu Yan didn't know, so he had to be on guard. Since the relationship between Mu Xiao and Suju is as rumored, is the relationship between Su Yongzhou and Suju in the previous life also as rumored? Now that I think about it, the last phone call I heard from Su Yongzhou at that time, Mr. Su who kept talking about it, should be Suju. After all, Su Yongzhou was signed in the Starry Sky at that time, so he should not call others that, and he mentioned the familiarity in Mr. Su's tone. Liu Yan didn't care too much at that time, but now it's a little too intimate, not like the simple relationship between the boss and his artists. Liu Yan couldn't help frowning. He didn't want to think about Suju's sexuality. What he cared about was whether Suju in this life would still hinder him, and now he still has no capital to contend with. Liu Yan was caught in his own thoughts, and suddenly there was a furious roar, "Second Su, what are you doing here?" This voice, this kind of strength, no need to guess to know that it must be Director Li Ran. Suju finally stood up, smiled at Li Ran, and replied slowly, "Of course I came to see how your movie went." Li Ran folded his arms and snorted, "I'm not here to make trouble." "How could it be?" Suju said innocently, "I paid for this movie, and I'm still making money from it." Li Ran pointed at the people around, most of them were actors in the play, with raised eyebrows. "You are here, how can they film well?" Suju slowly put her hands in her pockets and smiled, "If they can't film well because I'm here, it only shows that you are too useless as a director." Li Ran was annoyed for a while, and in terms of eloquence, he is really not the opponent of second brother Su. "You must have a good look at you, and you are not allowed to do 3 or 4 for me, otherwise, I will tell the boss Su and let him come. Teach you." The corner of Suju's mouth twitched, "You're such an adult, and you're still making a small report, are you interested?" Li Ran raised his eyebrows and said, "It's interesting and boring, just stop you." "Okay, let's get ready to start shooting. Do you want to rest today?" Of course, the latter sentence was for everyone. According to rumors, director Li Randa has a very close relationship with the Su brothers, and it is true. Suju really did what he said, he just looked at it carefully. "But I can't stand everyone trying to get his attention." Of course, the advantage is not without it, that is, everyone is more serious, even those who are usually lazy when they are not important because their roles are not important. In this atmosphere, even the number of NGS was much less. Li Ran was a little surprised that Suju had such an effect, so he didn't care about his rude remarks. "Just kidding, no one in the circle knows that Suju, President Su Er Shao, although he has always liked beautiful women and is not a taboo for men and women, he never wants vases. What he can see is basically both beauty and strength, which has created a lot of people he admires and finally became the best actor and actress or the queen of song and song. Of course, the additional effect is that more artists want to embrace this thigh. That being said, his eyesight is quite good. Of course Liu Yan was not among these people. Ever since he had understood the relationship between Suju and Su Yongzhou in the previous life, he had given up the idea of attracting Suju's attention to befriend him. It's just that he dismissed the idea, it doesn't mean that the other party has no idea. In the afternoon, Liu Yan had a scene, which happened to be an opponent scene with Mu Xiao. As soon as he entered the field, he felt a gaze following him. He glanced at random and met Suju's interesting gaze, and when he saw him looking over, he slightly hooked the corner of his mouth. Liu Yan didn't pay much attention to it at first, he thought it was because the scene was against Mu Xiao, so Suju paid attention to him by the way, and later realized that something was wrong, because Suju basically didn't pay attention to him. On Mu Xiao. Obviously Mu Xiao also knew something. Her face was particularly bad, and the hostility in her eyes was even heavier. Although she tried her best to hide it, she still left traces. Liu Yan suddenly understood, it turned out that Mu Xiao's inexplicable unfriendliness was because of Suju's interest in him. When is it? It was the first time for Suju to come to the set, but Mu Xiao showed hostility on the first day of meeting. It should be that Suju mentioned him before Mu Xiao before, so it should be the one you met during the audition. Perhaps Su Yongzhou also aroused Suju's interest during the audition in his previous life, and only then did he develop later. After figuring out the joints, Liu Yan was a little surprised, but not too surprised. After all, no matter which aspect, Liu Yan is confident that he will not lose to Su Yongzhou. It's just that Liu Yan is not Su Yongzhou, and his choice must be different. Not to mention that Liu Yan had no interest in men in the first place, so relying on Su Yongzhou in his previous life to deal with him through Suju's relationship made him feel disgusted enough. Liu Yan didn't want to deny that he was actually quite a vengeful person. After thinking about it, Liu Yan became more calm. His performance is still remarkable, even if he NG a few times because of Mu Xiao, it can't hide his excellent performance. After the director shouted card, Liu Yan knew that this article had finally passed, and he nodded to Mu Xiao in a routine and polite manner. No matter whether the other party responded or not, he just did a good job of not being realistic. Then Liu Yan walked to the rest area, and Song Hui, who was waiting there, immediately served refreshments. Liu Yan closed his eyes and rested for a while. After a while, a person sat down next to him. Liu Yan noticed the suddenly quiet atmosphere around him, and guessed who was coming. When he opened his eyes, he saw that it was Suju. No matter how he felt about this person, Liu Yan would never open the guilty person first. He nodded politely to Suju and said hello, Mr. Su, hello. Suju smiled, the smile that always hung on his face often made people forget his extraordinary background, a little sexy, a little charming. I have to admit that even without the strength behind it, Suju has enough conditions to make all men and women flock to her. Your name is Liu Yan, I still remember you, we met when you auditioned. Liu Yan also smiled, Mr. Su has a good memory. The corner of Suju's mouth twitched, and she lowered her voice with a hint of ambiguity, you deserve a good memory. Liu Yan was unmoved, and responded lightly, so does President Su. Interesting. The interest in Suju's eyes was even stronger, and he didn't mind at all about being molested if it wasn't right. Suju sat up straight and continued solemnly, your acting skills are very good. The scene just now was very good. It was also during the audition. You didn't look like a newcomer at all. Liu Yan accepted it calmly, thank you Mr. Su for your appreciation. With such good acting skills, except for talent, I must have worked hard. How about it? Have you ever thought about showing off your skills in the showbiz? Suju began to throw bait. I believe this is every actor's dream. Liu Yan made a fortune. Liu Yan didn't climb up the pole, which surprised Suju, raised his brows, and the meaning in his eyes was unclear. The exchange of sight between the two did not last long. Mu Xiaoxi Shiran, who had changed clothes and done makeup, came over, smiled sweetly at Suju, and hugged Suju's arm naturally with both hands. Mr. Su, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting, I've already asked the assistant to set a seat, let's go. He completely turned a blind eye to Liu Yan who was sitting on the side. Although Suju was a little unhappy and Mu Xiao didn't understand the wink, he usually didn't show face in person, not to mention that he had made an appointment with Mu Xiao for dinner, so he smiled at Liu Yan and said that he would talk to him next time. Get up and go. Liu Yan breathed a sigh of relief without a trace, although he did not intend to cling to Suju, but he also did not want to completely offend this person who can turn the tide in the entertainment industry. As for Mu Xiao's ignorance of him, he didn't take it to heart at all. Instead, he sighed a little. Although Mu Xiao was beautiful, he was not smart enough. He didn't know how to hide his emotions in front of Suju. The dissatisfaction, I'm afraid she won't be by Suju's side for long. The days after that were relatively calm, and the filming of the film went very smoothly. Originally, it would take almost a month to complete according to the original plan. Because of the improved efficiency, it could be completed half a month earlier. In other words, in half a month, Liu Yan will be unemployed. During this time, between filming, Liu Yan thought about his own future the most. The most urgent task at the moment, of course, is to sign a reliable brokerage company first. Liu Yan has just entered the industry and has no resources. If he wants to pick up the job by himself, he must first starve to death. As for those who open their own studios, it is possible for them to be able to get into a certain level of high-level artists with resources, connections, and financial resources. Originally, Xing Kong was a good choice. With Liu Yan's performance in this movie, it is not difficult to get a contract from Sing Kong. However, because of Suju, Liu Yan didn't really want to get on the starry sky. Although Suju has not appeared since the last time, and the temptation at that time was very obscure, Liu Yan couldn't even be sure whether Suju was really interested in him, but if it was true, then signing for Starry Sky would be a good idea. With the rhythm of feeding sheep into the tiger's mouth every minute, Liu Yan was unwilling to let himself fall into that kind of passivity. Where to go? It's really a headache. Fortunately, Liu Yan is not completely out of options. Although the main investor of this film is Sing Kong, and most of the staff belong to Sing Kong, there are still members of other companies, such as actor Gu Yang, who is not an artist of Sing Kong. It's time to get more rewards for managing relationships for so long. So when Gu Yang raised these issues with him, Liu Yan was not too surprised. Xiao Liu, the movie is about to be finished, what are your plans for the future? From the perspective of a senior who cares about his junior, Gu Yang said this very naturally. This, I haven't considered it yet. Even though countless late nights had thought about it 1,000 times in his mind alone, Liu Yan still replied. He knew that Gu Yang would bring up this topic and there must be more to follow. I heard you haven't signed with any company yet. Yes, Liu Yan nodded. My mentor recommended me to audition for this movie. After that, I came over directly. I haven't had time to think about the agency. Gu Yang smiled, if you want to enter the Starry Sky, there should be no problem. Your performance is obvious to everyone, and Director Li is also very satisfied with you. If he is willing to recommend you, he should be able to get a good one. Contract. Liu Yan shook his head with a wry smile. The Sing Kong family has a big business and abundant resources, but there are also many people competing. I'm just a newcomer, and I'm afraid that even though the cake is big, I won't be able to share a few bites. Gu Yang's eyes lit up when he heard this, and tentatively said, then what do you think of Huanyu? Huanyu is Gu Yang's agency. Liu Yan smiled slightly, and complimented with a bit of ridicule, it's naturally a good company that can cultivate Gu Yingdi. Gu Yang laughed, if you are interested in this good company, I can recommend it to you. Liu Yan hurriedly said, Brother Yang never forgets the company. I wonder if the boss has given more bonuses. Gu Yang put his index finger on his lips, this is a secret. If you want to know, come to Huanyu. Although the two have not known each other for a long time, because of their similar temperaments and strong friendship, they often make some harmless jokes. After laughing, Gu Yang still suggested seriously, you can seriously think about it. Although Huanyu is a small company, it attaches great importance to every artist who signs a contract. With your conditions, it will definitely develop greatly. If necessary. If so, you can find me. Liu Yan nodded, I will seriously consider it. Anyway, thank you Brother Yang. Gu Yang patted him on the shoulder, you're welcome, if you really entered Huanyu, you would be my junior brother. Liu Yan smiled, thanking him very sincerely. Although when we first met, I had the intention to use it, but after getting along, apart from the relationship of interests, Gu Yang is indeed a friend worthy of deep friendship. Liu Yan is not a person who does not know what is good or bad, so he naturally puts more sincerity in it. In addition, Huanyu is going to invest in a movie recently, which is an urban romance drama. The actor of the second male lead has not been determined. I read the script and thought you were quite suitable, so I mentioned it to the director. This movie it's going to be released in the New Year's Eve. Although there may not be much hope for sprinting for major awards, it would be good if the purpose is to show more faces and more audiences. Are you interested? Liu Yan was really surprised now, and quickly said, I'm interested, of course I'm interested, Brother Yang is really interested. Gu Yang was very satisfied with Liu Yan's response, then I'll tell the director again, you can go for an audition when the movie is finished. Of course, it's up to you whether you can succeed or not, but I'm very optimistic about you. I understand, I am very grateful to Brother Yang for having this opportunity. The two were chatting when there was a sudden commotion. Liu Yan looked in the direction where the crowd gathered. Of course it wasn't a small person who could cause such a big commotion, it was Suju who came. However, the first thing Liu Yan saw was not Suju, but the person beside Suju. That person's facial features are quite similar to Suju, but the outline is deeper and more refined, and the momentum is also calm and powerful. Different from Suju, who is casual, his formal suit is exceptionally straight, and his handmade suits are tailored and of high quality. Compared to Suju, who often wears a friendly and lively smile, he is more meticulous and rigorous from the inside out. His expression was light, and the pair of sword eyebrows under his smooth forehead were exceptionally straight. His eyes are clear and transparent, but they are hidden by the sharpness of his eyes, which makes people feel that there is a sharp edge passing by. If Suju is like a romantic prince, then he is an emperor who looks down on life and death in the world. And Liu Yan knew that this person really deserved the name of the king, because he was the boss of the Sui family, the president of the Sui group, and the real talker of Xing Kong, Sui Mo. In the business world, Sui Mo is a legend. Legend has it that Sui Mo started investing in finance when he was a teenager, and earned his first pot of gold without relying on his family background. Before the age of 20, he graduated from the Wharton School of Business, the world's most famous financial school. After the unexpected death of the previous Sui family head, at a young age, he recaptured the Sui family from other uncles who coveted the Sui family group, and reformed and purged it drastically. In less than 10 years, the Sui family has not only recovered but also improved to a new level, and has become a first-class enterprise at home and abroad. Star Entertainment is a subsidiary of the Sui Group, and it was also founded by Sui Mo. Although it seems to the outside world that Suju is the master of the starry sky, in fact, it is Sui Mo who has the real right to speak. Sui Mo is a low-key person, and does not easily accept interviews and exposure. Liu Yan knew so much because he had read an autobiography of Sui Mo, which was one of his few public appearances, and the publication of that autobiography was still a few years later. Anyone who is a little bit interested in business rarely doesn't worship Sui Mo. There are not many people that Liu Dianping admires, and Sui Mo is one of them. At this time, many people have heard of Sui Mo, but very few people have actually seen Sui Mo. It's just that although I don't know each other, someone who can appear at the same time as Suju and has a close attitude is definitely a big man, but this big man seems to be very difficult to approach. When Li Ran heard that Suju was coming again, she rushed over in a righteous manner. When she saw that person, her attitude immediately turned 180 degrees. She was respectful and affectionate, and she scratched her unkempt hair, as if a little sorry. "Boss Su, why are you here?" Seeing Director Li Ran, who is usually hot-tempered, show such an expression, everyone said that he was a little blind. The corners of Su Mo's mouth curved slightly, a smile so light that he could hardly tell he was smiling. "Come and see you." It was also the first time that Liu Yan heard Su Mo's voice. It was low, like a whisper in his ear. Li Ran waved a hand in the air. "Hey, if Boss Su wants to see me, just a phone call will be fine, and I will be there whenever I ask you." Sui Mo hadn't said anything yet, but Suju next to him couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Is it a bit promising, Li Xiaoliu?" There are many brothers in the Li family, and Li Ran ranks 6th. He is the old son of the Li family. His parents and elders are very spoiled. He can give whatever he wants. The admiration is incredible. When I learned that Sui Mo wanted to open a film and television company, he immediately went to read the director, but he also found his interest by accident. After a few years, with his own ability and the support of the stars, he has long been famous. Famous guides at home and abroad, parents and brothers at home will no longer say anything, just go with him. At this moment, when they heard that director Li, who was usually domineering on the set, was called such a disillusioned name, everyone once again said that even their ears were going to be blind. Li Ran glared at Suju secretly. Because Su Mo was present, there was no outbreak. The smile on Su Mo's mouth finally deepened. Today is your birthday. The corners of Li Ran's mouth cracked open in a visible way, looking overwhelmed with joy. Hey, I almost forgot. Su Mo said, when you finish work, let's help you celebrate together. Okay, but there are a lot of plays today. If it goes well, it will be in the evening. Does Boss Su have anything else to do, or do you want to find a place to rest first? Li Ran agreed happily without being pretentious. He was ready to finish work ahead of schedule. He knew that Su Mo had always appreciated people who worked hard, and he and Suju were also deeply affected. No matter how they usually work, they would never be sloppy at work. No, Su Mo smiled lightly, I will rest for the rest of the time. I have never seen what filming is like. Today is just an eye-opener. Li Ran immediately recruited an assistant to arrange for the Su brothers to go to the rest area, so that they would not be disturbed and had a good view to see the filming process. A Su tactic can already make everyone motivated, not to mention that a more important Su Mo has been added today. Everyone is like a chicken blood, and they try their best to perform well and try to leave enough for the two bosses. Good impression. And today's director Lida is equally excited, and even the scolding voice seems to be a few decibels higher. Liu Yan has two scenes today, one is his appearance in the film and the other is his ending in the film. The beginning and the end happen to be on the same day. It is a test of acting skills to switch between two completely different emotions in one day, but Li Ran is very confident in Liu Yan, and of course Liu Yan himself is the same. The scene where Liu Yan appeared first was filmed. At that time, he had just returned from studying abroad, full of enthusiasm and ambition. Liu Yan wears a suit and looks foreign. Although the style looks old now, it is better than being young and handsome. Liu Yan has bright eyes. After getting out of the car, he saw that he had lived for decades and then left. A few years of hometown, some nostalgia, some sense. Ka. Li Ran called out, very good, Liu Yan, very good, the eyes are very good and in place. Liu Yan pulled away from the play, and was very happy to receive the rare affirmation from director Li. He couldn't help but slightly bent his eyes. It was the humble and polite actor Liu Yan again. Very good, Li Ran raised his hand, Liu Yan will take a rest, and then prepare to shoot the next scene, everyone will take their place. When he turned around, Liu Yan felt a line of sight fall on him. He looked over subconsciously, and saw Suju raised his eyebrows and smiled at him. There was so much ambiguity in his smile, and then he leaned over Suju. Mo said something in his ear. Su Mo looked at him thoughtfully, with his usual sharpness, a taste of scrutiny and exploration. Liu Yan felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. This feeling of being judged made him very disgusted, but his face was light, and he nodded politely. After just resting for a while, after taking a sip of tea, Liu Yan got up to replace the costumes and makeup for the next scene, and at the same time brewed his emotions. At this time, Liu Yan was completely different from before. He was no longer in high spirits, his eyes were deep and fierce, and his body was chilled by blood and fire. A group of subs-hots showed his calm and composed command, and his delicate and meticulous layout was vividly displayed. The last group was a long shot, which was required to be done in one go. Before filming started, Li Ran told Liu Yang, Guiyang, and Mu Xiao about the scene in detail again. All three of them entered the scene this time, but Guiyang and Mu Xiao were mainly from the back. After everything was ready, Guiyang patted Liu Yan on the shoulder, meaning to relax and cheer. Liu Yan nodded with a smile, thanking him. Everyone took their places and said action. Liu Yan looked at the back of Guiyang and Mu Xiao who were walking away with him. His eyes were very complicated. There was guilt that the family revenge was difficult to avenge, there was reluctance to part with his former lover, and the emotion of completing the task. The chasing soldiers from behind gradually approached. Liu Yan took a deep breath, turned around resolutely, and put on the trench coat and hat that had been prepared for a long time, the same as Fang Cai Gu Yang. This was his final plan, Li Dai Tao Zong, in exchange for more time for them to evacuate safely. The last shootout was quite exciting. Liu Yan used one enemy to 10, and his guns were accurate, and he actually wiped out all the chasing enemies. However, he himself was seriously injured and could not recover. Liu Yan clutched his severely injured abdomen tightly, and sat down slowly against the earth wall behind him. His weak other hand could no longer hold the depleted gun, and let it slip from his hand, as if from his body. Slipping vitality. Liu Yan raised his head diligently, with the back of his head against the wall. At this time, he could no longer see everything in front of him, and the past life flashed in his mind. Ambition and unwillingness, but no regrets. He slowly raised the corners of his mouth, only a little bit up, and he was no longer able to continue. He tried his best to leave his last smile in this world, until his eyes no longer had brilliance. The camera slowly turns to the sky. Everyone was stunned by this solemn and heavy scene, and the scene was silent. Even after the director called the card and the filming was over, the atmosphere was still a bit dull, and no one could laugh. It was Liu Yan who adjusted it first. While wiping the blood plasma on his body with the towel handed over by Song Hui, he asked with a smile, "Director Li, how is it? Is there anything that needs to be retaken?" Li Ran also smiled rarely, "No, very good, just perfect." Gu Yang came over and patted Liu Yan's back, and said with a smile, "Good job. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to pass it all. It's great." Liu Yan chuckled, "Brother Yang is modest again." After that, several staff members who had a good relationship with Liu Yan came over and praised him, and the atmosphere at the scene slowly became alive again. When filming just now, Liu Yan felt that the previous line of sight was still watching him, but when he was in the film, Liu Yan could abandon all external influences, and the line of sight seemed to be absent. Now the film is over, the feeling of being watched is particularly strong. Liu Yan controlled himself not to look in that direction anymore. Just as today's scene was over, he beckoned Song Hui to go back to rest first. Today's filming went well, but Liu Yan's mood was not very good, which was undeniably because of Suju and that look. Liu Yan is no longer an ignorant and passionate young man. He is well aware of the various rules and unspoken rules of the entertainment industry, and he does not resist. Instead, he is willing to use it as much as possible within the range that he can accept. In this most realistic adult world, few people who climb to high places are innocent. If you want to stand tall, you have to pay a price, this Liu Yan understands. It's just that Liu Yan still has his own bottom line, and this bottom line is himself. Liu Yan knew very well that, given his appearance and no background, if he wanted to stay in the entertainment industry and do well, some people would definitely want to take action against him. From the very beginning, he had no intention of giving in. In essence, Liu Yan is actually quite an egoistic person, and there is nothing worth exchanging for him at his own expense. He didn't give in when he was so miserable in the last life, let alone now. Although he had done a good job in his mental construction, Liu Yan was still somewhat annoyed when he thought that he was going to offend Xin Kong, one of the leaders in the industry, at the very beginning. Fortunately, Suju's reputation in the circle has always been very good. It is said that although he has no luck, he never pushes him. Those who obey him will naturally get his support, and those who reject him are not deliberately suppressed. However, on his terms, almost no one can resist it. Anyway, the filming of this drama was only finished in about half a month. When the time comes, I will sign with other companies and try to avoid cooperation with Xin Kong in the future. Although I will lose some opportunities, I have experienced the bleakness of the previous life. Yan can't stand it anymore. Fortunately, Gu Yang was able to meet and befriend him here. Liu Yan has already begun to seriously consider the possibility of joining Huanyu. If he can get the support of the new actor, the road in the future can be a little smoother. In the last half month, although there is no need to hurry up, everything is still in full swing. Up to the director, down to all the staff, no one is slack, not to mention the boss has promised that after the filming is over, he will treat everyone well. Sure enough, after the last scene was filmed, Director Lee immediately announced that the company would hold a cocktail party 3 days later, and asked all the cast and crew to attend as much as possible, and also asked the assistant to contact those who left the crew early because of the end of the scene. Liu Yan was also among the people who were notified that all his roles had ended a week ago, so he said hello and left the crew ahead of schedule. Because he received this drama and got the accommodation of the school leaders, Liu Yan completed his graduation defense ahead of schedule. He didn't even attend the graduation ceremony, and naturally he didn't receive the graduation certificate. In performing arts schools, there are quite a few such students every year, and it has long been commonplace. Of course, the school's apartment was also retired, so the first thing I did when I came back was to find a place to stay. Fortunately, Liu Yan had already rented a house through an intermediary company in advance, so that he would not end up on the street as soon as he came back. The rent is a single apartment with more than 30 square meters. The conditions are not too good and not too bad. I signed a contract for half a year, and I paid one for 3. I don't know how long I can live. Maybe it will solve the accommodation problem, and then rent it out or return it. After arranging the accommodation casually, Liu Yan went back to the school to go through some formalities that he hadn't had time to go through before, which took 2 days. After that, I spent another day to try the play that Gu Yang recommended last time, and the effect was not bad. Then I contacted my former classmates and made an appointment to have a meal with a few good ones. When he was on the set, Liu Yan's cell phone was always turned off in order not to be distracted. Su Yongzhou did not come during the meal. After being ridiculed by several best friends, I learned that Su Yongzhou received the role of the second male lead in an idol drama. It is said that he was originally auditioning for a small role, but when the director saw him, he felt that it fit the role of the second male lead in the play, and he was immediately chosen to play the second male lead. He was really lucky. Chen Yiming drank a lot, and his tongue was a little knotted, but he still poured it into his mouth, patted Liu Yan's shoulder and said loudly, "I know that among us, you and Yongzhou are the most promising, and we will become the most promising in the future. Once a big star, don't forget us." Liu Yan also drank a lot, but he had a good alcohol capacity, so he was still sober. He smiled lightly, patted Chen Yiming's hand, and said nothing. "My heart is somewhat darkened, but I still can't take it lightly, that guy's luck is still as good as ever. I just hope that the well water will not cause river water in this life. Otherwise..." Liu Yan's eyes darkened. The next day, I got up a little late, and just got something to fill my hungry stomach. I received a call from my assistant, informing him that there would be a cocktail party in 3 days. After Liu Yan agreed to attend, he hung up the phone. 3 days passed quickly. The reception was set at a high-end hotel in the city. It is indeed a big company, and it is a big deal. Liu Yan put on the suit that he had specially bought 2 days ago. It was not a particularly expensive brand, and the style and fabric looked young, which made Liu Yan even more outstanding. Liu Yan arrived on time, and after a while, the reception started. After a few speeches from the leaders, they started to dine freely. There are many dishes in the buffet, combining Chinese and Western styles. Except for a few company executives, they were members of the crew who worked together for more than 3 months. They were all familiar with each other, and there were no outsiders, and they were much more casual. The atmosphere of the reception was very good. Everyone chatted and drank in 2s and 3s, which was very relaxing. Of course, the company's top executives and Director Lee were the ones surrounded the most. Almost everyone had a glass of wine and went up to say a few words, especially Su Ju and Su Mo, who were the top leaders of the company. To be honest, Suju was here, as expected. Su Mo's appearance really surprised Liu Yan. According to his knowledge from his last life, after Su Mo founded Starry Sky and got on the right track, he put all his affairs in order. After handing it over to Suju, apart from some important decisions, he basically no longer interferes in Starry Sky's affairs, let alone attend such a small reception. Surprised but surprised, Liu Yan didn't get close. He already had his own plans, he didn't want anything, and naturally he didn't need to get close. What's more, in this extraordinary period, he was so eager for Suju to forget that there was a person like him, and he would not deliver it to the door by himself. Silently filling his stomach, and having a few words of greetings with a few familiar and well-connected people, Liu Yan took the wine glass and found a corner with dim lighting and sat down. Before coming, Liu Yan wanted to find Gu Yang again to confirm his entry into Huanyu and the movie he mentioned last time. Who knew that Gu Yang would not be able to come for a while, so he had to look for a chance later. The mood is not so good, and naturally there is no interest in talking more. At the reception, the lights were mottled, the figures were colorful, and the crowds were staggered. Liu Yan shook the red wine glass in his hand unconsciously, thinking aimlessly that the taste of this red wine is really good, it should be from some years, it seems that the company is really not very generous, it really is rich and rich, a bit boring, are you looking for a chance to slip away later? I don't know. When someone sat down next to him, Liu Yan was immersed in his own thoughts, feeling vaguely, but he didn't care, until a deep voice sang in his ears, "Why is Mr. Liu alone? Sit here." Liu Yan was a little surprised. When he came back to his own world, he thought it would be Suju, but it was Su Mo who didn't think so. Could it be that he was a lobbyist for his younger brother? It's really a brother and a brother, it's a bit interesting. However, Liu Yan would soon realize that he was wrong. It's quiet here, Liu Yan nodded his head and glanced at the liveliness on the other side, I'm still not used to it. There will be a lot of entertainment like this in the future, and I'll get used to it gradually. Su Mo said lightly. Liu Yan turned his head to look at him, because he was sitting in the backlight, the light cast a shadow on his face, softening the originally sharp features, but his eyes were still firm. Liu Yan raised the corners of his mouth slightly, with a half-smile, isn't Mr. Su not used to it? I rarely attend such banquets. Su Mo said, lowering his lower eyelids slightly. Liu Yan found that his eyelashes were a bit long and thick, so he could easily cast a shadow under his eyes, but fortunately, it was not curled, and it would not give the illusion of softness. Yes, with Su Mo's status, naturally no one can force him to do things he doesn't like, parties or banquets, as long as he doesn't want to, no one can let him participate. Liu Yan was a little embarrassed, and said casually, then how could Mr. Su appear on an occasion like today? For you. Su Mo didn't beat around the bush and looked straight at him. The warmth in his eyes made Liu Yan, who had always been indifferent, couldn't help but his heart beat faster. Liu Yan quickly realized that what he had just thought was wrong. Su Mo came here not for Suju, but for himself. Liu Yan was a little surprised again, but this kind of accident didn't make him feel any better, on the contrary, he became more annoyed. What kind of person does this Su family brother take him to be? Of course, people have the right not to take him seriously, or in their eyes, he is just a trick that can be bought and played at any time. Such thoughts made Liu Yan almost furious, and even a little disgusted. He laughed in anger, what do you mean by Mr. Su? Su Mo didn't care about his attitude, and still said lightly, your acting skills are very good, not only that, but your ability and handling of things are not like a fledgling newcomer. I believe that as long as you have the opportunity, given time, the entertainment industry will definitely have your world. So is Mr. Su going to give me such a chance? Liu Yan said ironically. Of course, as long as you want. Su Mo didn't seem to hear his sarcasm and responded seriously. So, What's the price? There's no such thing as a free lunch. What price should I pay for it? Myself. Shouldn't it be? Suemo asked back. It should be, it should be. Liu Yan laughed a few times. In business, Mr. Su is indeed a successful businessman. Speaking of which, I made a profit. Then, you agreed. Sumo's eyes suddenly lit up. Liu Yan raised his eyebrows with a smile, sipped the red wine in his glass lightly, and slowly approached, feeling Sumo's gradually heavy breathing, whispering in his ear, I don't know that it's very attractive. It's just that things are not always satisfactory. Mr. Su wants to buy, but some people don't want to sell. So, my answer is, Liu Yan paused for a while, stood up, and uttered a word firmly, no. After speaking, without waiting for Sumo's response, Liu Yan stood up, patted the hem of his clothes without any creases, and said respectfully, sorry, I'm a little too drunk, so I'll go ahead. When he walked out of the hotel door, he was blown by the night wind, and his dizzy head suddenly woke up, and even the anger and nausea that had been pressing in his heart also dissipated a lot. It's very strange, even though he didn't drink much alcohol, he was a little drunk. Fang Cai's reaction was a bit extreme, which was somewhat inconsistent with the way Liu Yan chose to deal with things. Or because Suemo used to be someone he admired after all, so he was somewhat disappointed. Liu Yan smiled bitterly. I only hope that Sumo's metric is as great as his achievements, and he won't care about a small person like himself. When I got back to my residence, I received a call from Gu Yang. The call told him that the role he had auditioned for had been set for him. The crew would call him again in a few days to confirm, and he would tell him the good news in advance. The contract has also been prepared for him. I will sign it when I have time. I have checked the conditions for him. It is not too good, but it is not bad. Generally, newcomers sign it like this. With Liu Yan's ability, he said a better contract may soon be signed. Liu Yan said thank you, hung up the phone, and smiled softly. After all, it wasn't all bad news, was it?